We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat. Period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Hey, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you're on the lifeboat. You know, the thumbnail that I made, I could not get to download. I don't know what the hell. I ended up using a thumbnail that we've already used before, and it's sad because the Unity, What Unites Us thumbnail that I made was actually pretty cool. I just couldn't get it to download. It would not go up onto this thing, which was driving me insane. But whatever. Bacon does unite us, but it's not where I was going with this. And I liked M. Hunt's evaluation of bacon. I think he summed that up pretty nicely. It's good to see all of you here. Let me tell you about my night, people. Last night at midnight, slightly after midnight, somewhere between 12 and about 12:15, I had just hung up the phone with Cedar, because Cedar had come home from work. Had one of those weird things happen at work, and she needed to talk to me. So I talked to my daughter. I was just falling asleep when she reached out to me, which is really typical of Cedar. But so I talked to her on the phone, and it was shortly after midnight. And I got an email from twins, a boy and a girl, who are freshmen in college and went to the same school. And apparently are very close. And they have been buying Percocet 30s and crushing them and smoking the powder. And the reason that they do it that way is because they know that this stuff can kill you. They came across the lifeboat looking up fent and how deadly it is. They came across one of my shorts where I talked about fentanyl. And they reached out to me. And I have zero experience talking to that generation about anything. But I spoke via texts. It started out as emails, and I said, is it cool if we text? Because I'm so much better at it than I am at doing the email thing, because it's just I type so slow that with text I could use voice to text. So I gave them my phone number, and they reached out, and I was using my iPad. Well, it's not an iPad, but it's a tablet. I was using my tablet instead of my phone so that it was bigger and I could type when I needed to type. And then if it was something that I really had a long sentence to say, I would speak into it. And I said, the stuff you're doing can kill you. And they said, yeah, they know. But what was amazing to me was they reached out to their parents and they told them that they had a drinking problem. When I was a freshman in college, I had a terrible drug problem. It was blow was what I was doing, and I was doing so much of it. And the girl that I was with at the time, whose name was Beth, which is a great human being, really a fantastic human being. I had known since I was about 8 years old. She was on a swim team that I used to compete against. And the swim teams would be on both sides, and the two of us would sort of meet in the middle and sit down and talk. Like from 8 years old on, we just grew up with each other on different swim teams. I used to refer to her as my friend from Brattleboro. And then one day in college, a guy said to me, "Man, there's a girl here looking for you. You would not believe what this girl looks like." I said, "Really?" And she said, "She's your friend from Brattleboro." About 5 hours later, she moved into my to my dorm room, and the two of us lived together for the entire second semester at college. Loved her. But we did coke together and got really strung out. And we were at a trailer that a guy owned in Vermont. And he would go down to the projects in Philadelphia, and he could pick up an ounce of blow for $600. Where we went to school, a gram was 100. So he would come back and sell 2 8-balls, and the rest would be head stash. So he was making a trip down, and Beth and I gave him $900, and he brought us back a couple of zips. It was just so much coke. I'd never seen anything like it. And we were snorting it and smoking it, making our own freebase. And I said to her, "If I see the sun come up again, I don't think I'm going to be able to get through the day." Like, I was seriously considering ending my time on this planet. I was really in a bad way. And she called my dad and came in with the phone and dropped it in my lap. And I could hear my dad saying, "Hello, hello." And I picked the phone up and I talked to him and I said, you need to come get me. And it was like a 4-hour drive from home. And it was like 5 in the morning. And he said, what's going on? I said, "You just got to come get me." And he drove up, and I was going to tell him the truth until he got there. And then when he got there, I stepped it down a notch and said I was drinking too much instead of doing drugs, because I just thought that was going to be a easier lie for him to deal with than the fact that I was strung out on drugs. So when these kids said to me, "Well, we told our parents that we had a drinking problem," I thought, boy, the more things change, the more things stay the same. And I told them that I did the exact same thing. And then I told them that I just recently lost my dad. And this conversation went until about 30 minutes ago, and they just stopped. And it was probably because I said, "You know what? You need to tell your parents the truth, because you're just going to keep going and buying this crap, and it's going to end up getting you. You're going to get a batch that it doesn't matter how small you break the little powder amount into, you're going to take a hit and it's going to stop your heart. That's going to be the end of it." And it was confusing as snot because they were both using the same device. So I didn't know who I was talking to half of the time, but the one of them really did not like this idea and thought that I was forcing, I don't know. Maybe I should never have said you really need to tell your parents, but they really need to tell their parents. And it's really not in my wheelhouse, man. I'm not really good at talking to kids, and I know that they're adults or whatever because they're 18, but my God, at my age, 18 is just not an adult. And one of them typed back, "We have Narcan." I said, "I don't care how much Narcan you have. Do you got 9 of them? Because one Narcan isn't going to bring your twin back. You're going to be sitting there panicking, and then you're going to call 911, and it's going to be everything you can do to try to keep them breathing until 911 gets there." And I don't know. I haven't slept since the last time that I saw everybody, which isn't helping with my mindset. But the things that unite us, sadly, without honesty, a person can't establish a foundation for change or improvement. Man, is that the truth. Man, is that the truth. And sadly, their parents think that their problem is alcohol, which means that when they come back home, they smell their breath. But they can go into town and buy fake perk 30s and bring them home. I said, you know that those aren't perks? And they said, yeah, nobody thinks they're perks anymore. And they're still doing them. In spite of the videos that I do and public service announcements and all of the crap that people do, kids are still buying that stuff, knowing it's Fent, and they're still doing it. You know, when you're 18, you just believe that nothing can get you. And, you know, there's 23 people watching this. And if I start counting names up on the screen, there might be 16 or 17 names up on the screen. So there's all of these people watching, and I agree with you, Captain. Even though Fent wasn't around really back then, I wish I'd had the backbone in my beggings to tell my mom the truth, right? I really hope that the twins are watching me. My gut says that they're not, because see, they're right at the end. I became a rat. I was no longer somebody trying to help them. I was somebody that was telling them to tell on themselves. And I get it. That would have pissed me off to no end. But I was watching the clock, and it was just getting closer to the lifeboat and closer to the lifeboat. And here's the thing, I'm right. They need to tell their parents. And I said, you know what? I will happily get on the phone and talk to them. You know, and the crazy thing is they think that they're going to get crucified for doing this, and they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have. The fact that their family took you have an alcohol addiction, they would have taken the pill addiction thing, and they would have done something about it. They would have tried to get these kids help. Apparently, they spent the vast majority of the second semester at school trying to quit. And just in that, quit for 48 hours, start vomiting and not being able to control your bowels, and then running back and buying more. And they've been doing that for a half a year. And I said, I did that for 20 years, 30 years. Like, if you don't stop this now, you're not going to. It's, I don't know. It's going to be a very long day because I didn't sleep. And now I feel like I screwed up, and I hate that feeling. I should take that. Let me rephrase that. I screwed up, which is even worse than thinking you screwed up. But maybe I should have just said, you know what, come on the lifeboat. You don't have to say anything. But see, we were texting. We weren't emailing. So I'm sure that they went into panic mode. This guy wants us to tell our parents. He has our phone number, right? I just look like a great big rat. And I understand where they're coming from, which is even worse, I think. Two of my comments didn't show. Paul, I don't know why that is. I assure you we're not blocking any of them or anything. Daniel, I'm sorry you didn't get any sleep. It's going to be a really, really long day. I sleep more in my chair than my bed. I was in bed. I got up for maybe 10 minutes, but it was really cold, and I came down here and was trying to, oh man. There needs to be a lifeboat for kids, because I don't think a lot of kids are going to listen to this show and relate to me in any way. And the crazy thing is that what unites us is so much more than what divides us. As people who are struggling with drugs or alcohol, the things that make us the same are so much more than the things that divide us. Whether you're black or white or Mexican, whether you're female or male, it's that inability to say no to a substance is what unites us. And the fact that nobody likes being addicted to anything. There's nobody that ever realized that they had a habit that they could no longer say no to, and went, oh man, how cool is this? It's like those movies It's like Sid and Nancy. Now I'm a junkie. And, when I throw up, snot bubbles come out of my nose. And isn't this great? I said, how do your parents not realize, are you not broke? They're not. They're not. They can buy 10 of those pills if they buy them one at a time, 10 of them is $100. If they buy them all at once, they can get 14 for $100. And it takes them a day to smoke a pill between them. Good God. I'm sorry, people. I really have absolutely no idea how to get my head right. I started the show early today, people, because the sun, as I mentioned yesterday, the sun is starting to come up earlier and earlier, and I don't want to have to bail off of the show early for the purpose of catching the sun, and in the process, rip off everybody for about 10 minutes of show. If I lay back down, though, I won't do anything with the mood that I am in. Scoob, been there. I hope your turtle is doing okay. You may have already mentioned that, but I didn't see it. So when I realized that the kids bailed off of the call, I sent an email to Q, and it's going to be 4 or 5 hours before he gets it, and that's if he happens to be in the unit. More than likely, he's going to be at work, and he may not have access to a computer that will allow him. A regular computer can't get you onto core links. It has to be a computer in the unit. It's a dedicated email machine, is what it is. It's a computer, but for all intents and purposes, it's just a dedicated email machine. It's the only thing that computer can do. Actually, that's not true, but it's pretty much the only thing that computer can do. It can also allow you to download songs onto an MP3 player if you have one. That's the other thing it can do. And you get timed on those computers for 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, you're kicked off. So keep somebody from getting on there and spending, 2 or 3 hours and taking up everybody's time on the computer. I'm glad you're feeling lucky, V. Full of hope. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well this morning. One of the problems with the lifeboat is that it is very easy to tie your emotions to other people. It's really, really easy to tie your happiness to other people, which is the danger, I think, of what I do. Uncle Bill, good to see you. And if it was anything else, I guess, I don't know. It's just friggin' fentanyl, man. It's not if, it's when. It's going to kill them. And it'll kill one of them. The odds of both of them taking a hit that's going to kill them is really, really thin. Can you imagine being a twin and having your twin taken out while you sit there? One will die and the other will be destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. And trying to tell that to somebody who doesn't believe that death is possible, because when you're 18, death isn't possible. When you're 18, you're bulletproof, right? You can piss ice cubes and eat bullets and walk on water and do all of that crazy crap. And then as you get older, you realize that you can't do any of that stuff. I'm not any good at talking to kids. I'm not. I got old, I woke up one day and I was old, and it's, man, say a prayer for these two kids, because they're in a world of hurt. This is just a really, really, I was immortal till I was at least 35. It's funny, M. Hunt, I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. They And it's a long night because right now I can't remember who I was talking to, but it was somebody from the boat, and we were sending emails back and forth. And they asked me at what point did I realize that I was mortal. And I competed skiing until I was in my 30s, early 30s. I think it was 2002 was the last. I know at the 2002 Olympics, there was in downtown Salt Lake, they had built a ski jump in the middle of the city. So it looked like a half pipe almost, like you would see for skateboarders. Except it was just a big, long, like you would step out and drop into this like straight down ramp. And it had a big jump. And the idea was that we did tricks for all of the tourists at the Olympics. And I think that was probably the last of anything that I did on skis, professionally. I would go out there and I would have to do like 6 or 7 jumps a night. It was actually really well built for being in the middle of a city. It had it was a really good sized jump, but not a lot of run up, about 40 or 50 feet of dropping in and then straight up. And you couldn't do anything really severe, but you could get a backflip and I would do a backflip and then I would land and ski down, take my skis off and go to the tent where everybody would go and drink beer. I was not much for alcohol while I was doing anything on skis because even a little bit of alcohol would make you prone to not landing correctly. So I was drinking Red Bulls because it was a Red Bull event and like they built the jump and all of that. And I drank, 2 million Red Bulls. So I would be up all night. But that was the last time. And I was 32. So I was good and old by that point. But there wasn't much danger in that. But in real competitions, you're trying tricks that you were usually pushing yourself a little bit. Backflips were actually a really easy trick to land on skis. It's spinning and things like where you no longer can see the landing that became an issue. You know what? I'm going to pull this day together after a really, really long sleep. I'm going to feel a hell of a lot better. And I know all of the right things to tell myself, right? All you can do is try. You can't, not telling them to tell their parents would have been really stupid, right? Honestly, even if I wasn't the host of a sobriety show, what advice do you give to 2 kids who are smoking poison? You need to tell an adult, and I know that their parents would have reacted so much differently to what they thought. Because now I'm a parent, I'm a parent of kids that, my daughter's still young, but Calhoun he's a grown man. And I've been through this crap and there's nothing that they couldn't have told me if telling me meant that they were going to be safer. And I think kids just don't have any appreciation for what it's like to be an adult or a parent. I do remember what it was like to be a kid. Sadly, they have no perspective on what it's like to be an adult. Sadly, at 18, you think you're an adult. And there's nobody here to offend unless they're lurking, in which case I'm not trying to offend you, but it's probably lack of sleep, but it's really, really messing with my head. I have hopes that prayers are going to get something done, and if they are watching, I wouldn't call and say, try to juke them into telling their parents or figuring out who they are. That's crossing a line I wouldn't do, as bad as it is. I couldn't bring myself to do that. They had they were trusting enough to give me a phone number. I'm not going to, it's 1:15 p.m. and I'm giving in to rest, baby. I suggest you journal and sleep too. When this is over, that's what I'm going to do. I promise I'm going to try to get as much sleep as I possibly can. The good news is that I've been drinking coffee since about 3 a.m. and it stopped working several hours ago. At this point, I think I'm drinking just because of the really beautiful creamer that's in there. There's this French vanilla. No, it's not French vanilla. It's Italian cream. That's what it is. It's the purple one. And I think that after like the third or fourth cup of coffee, I'm drinking it for the Italian cream. You know what I mean? There's no longer a whole lot of caffeine that's doing anything to me. It's a matter of trying to talk myself into the fact that the warm beverage is keeping me awake. I think the caffeine stopped working a while ago, but boy, does it taste good. Sadly, because I'm older than dirt, I'll wake up about every 45 minutes after I go to sleep to pee, because that's what happens when you hit 50. You know, all of a sudden, you just don't sleep through a night without getting up to go to the bathroom more than once or twice or 3 times. Hey, Rick, good to see you. Glad that you're here. The guy, glad you're here as well. Virginia, really good to see you. Charlie Murphy, my man. Charlie is just... Hello, V. V, I was really happy to hear that you got a court date. I feel like that has dragged on far too long, and that man just needs to be sentenced to 3 life sentences, and so that you can sort of move on. Trish Killian, good to see you this morning. Trish, Hobitographer. I was with several friends yesterday that are local. They're watch people, and I was showing off some of your stuff. And the overall the consensus was that you really are pretty good at this whole photography thing. Scoob, glad you're here. I'm going to head out, go for a walk, and hope it puts me in a better mood, because I need to get out of this mood. Scoob, walking a couple of blocks for me. I could use to get out of this mood myself. Well, I hope we don't offend you, Rick, but pretty used to it too. I'm making purple butter right now. How does one make purple butter? How does one make purple butter? It can't be a food coloring thing, is it? Is it just a food coloring thing? How's that for hoping against hope? The really crazy thing is that noise was not even a text, but I heard that noise on my phone and I thought, it's them. They're going to tell me that they're going to talk to their parents. It's not going to happen. I really don't want anything to happen to these kids. And the worst part is that you talk to somebody like this online and then they'll just quit talking to you. And you'll sit and wonder. Shit show. Sorry. I will be in garlic butter is heaven. I will be in much better spirits. I can make green butter. I used to make a lot of green butter when I was a kid too. You know the thing with green butter, I gave up green butter when I found out that you could make green milk. That was I stopped doing anything with cooking cannabis once I realized that I could put all of it into milk, because nothing would destroy you like that. We used to do a lot of when at the time I was buying like, I don't know, 150 pounds of Mexican brick dope at a time. And I was bringing it from Texas to Boston, Massachusetts, where instead of being worth, $250 or $300 a pound, it was worth like $2,000 or $2,300 a pound or something like that. But I would have just so much of this crap. It was ridiculous. I mean, it wasn't a horrible pot. It was just brick pot, commercial pot, but I would throw like a quarter pound of it into a big saucepan and cover it with milk and bring the thing and just keep it just below simmer for about 45 minutes. So every time it started to boil at all, you pull it off, let it cool down a bit and put it back on. And then you'd let that stuff cool, and it would be the most disgusting, like oil slick. It would leave this film in your mouth that was the most foul, disgusting. I would go buy the, how you put Hershey syrup, like you make chocolate milk? Well, this was the pink stuff that you make, like Nestle Quick, that pink stuff. And I would pour about half of the Nestle Quick and half milk, and I would drink it. And inevitably, I would be knocked out for hours and hours and hours on end. The stuff was poison. And then a guy that I knew from Salt Lake City, I was telling him about this, and this was years after I had done anything like this. And the butter is purple because of purple haze. Oh, I got you. Purple butter as opposed to green butter. Gotcha. God, they still make purple haze. I remember the first time that I saw haze, I think it was 1989, something like that. Came from the Cannabis Cup. Northern Lights and Purple Haze were the seeds that we were able to get from the Sensi Seed Bank back a million years ago. I was never, like I said, I was never really my thing, but I grew a lot of it. I used to grow quite a bit of grass. It was a way to pay for my drug habit because it was worth so much money. When I lived in Salt Lake City, I rented a house that I just grew in. And then I had a house down the street it was way down the street, but I had a house in Salt Lake as well that I lived in, the house that we owned. And then I rented a house that it was about probably 3,000 square feet. It's a really pretty decent sized home. And I would have a room downstairs that was under fluorescence 24/7. Then I would grow these huge mother plants that were just massive. And then I would take cuttings off of those and just, clone them, and with all Rockwool cubes and ebb and flow tables and all of that. Yes, Sensi Seed Bank. I've actually been there. I've actually been to the Sensi Seed Museum, which is right near Heineken in Amsterdam. And they have a museum and a little grow setup. Actually, not a little grow setup by any stretch. A unbelievably large grow setup that you could go in and watch the process of them doing what they did, which was always something to look at because they would grow, cola buds that were like the size of your thigh, and it was just you'd look at them and go, how the hell do they do this? But I guess if without the law being an issue, and you could really sort of do whatever you wanted, it would be a whole lot easy. Willy Wonders. Any relation to Willy Wonka? Sorry, big fan. My friend wanted $5,000 a seed for it. Good God, man. That is ridiculous. What do you think of Amsterdam? I enjoyed Amsterdam. I thought it was a fun city. I'll tell you an Amsterdam story. So when I was still going to Amsterdam, because I've been there numerous times, when I would go there to be a judge in the Cannabis Cup. That was a big thing for a while. And this was, by then I had stopped smoking, but all of my friends still did. So we would go and you pay to become a judge, and then you buy your own samples, and you would smoke, and you have a little notebook, and you write down, which is really funny because after the second sample, you're so wasted, you can't even think. But Tommy Chong was there, which was cool. We got to meet Tommy Chong, and the guy from Skid Row. What the hell's his name? Sebastian Bach. He was a judge the first year we went, and then we went back the next year. I don't remember if it was the next year or if it was 2 years later, but we went back again to do it, and they were both there again. And it was funny because they were like, "Hey, don't I know you?" It was anyway. So I would go out there and we would smoke stuff. The year that Jack Harrar was the Arjan, the guy, he's not from Sensi. He's got his own company, and he had topless girls come in with big silver trays with weed all over it, and he didn't make anybody pay for their samples. So instead of getting these little nugs, you got so I think that had a lot to do with him winning, if you want to know the truth. But I wanted heroin. By that point I was pretty well addicted, and it was very, very easy to get. In fact, you didn't even have to buy it illegally. I'm not exactly sure how to explain that. I'm sure it was illegal, but you could buy it in a building. You could go to a pharmacy and ask for diacetylmorphine, and they would give you options of what kind. And anyway, so I bought this yellow stuff. It's from South America. And the person said to me, "I know you think you do a lot of this drug, but this is different than anything you've ever done, and this can kill you." And I went back to this terrible hotel. We bought a package deal, right? So you buy the airfare and the tickets to the Cannabis Cup and the everything. It's all a package. And they send you these pictures of the most beautiful, absolutely beautiful hotel. I have no idea where those pictures were taken because it was not the hotel we rented. The hotel we rented was a dump. And it would just really, it was a dump. So I got back there with this little glass vial with this yellow crap in it. And the person, as I was going to leave the pharmacy, the person grabbed my arm, got a handful of sleeve and said, "Hey, I'm not kidding. Take the end of a Bic pen and just use that little blue part and just barely cover it because this stuff will kill you." So I said, "Okay, yeah, I got you. And I called downstairs to the front desk and I said, "This may sound crazy, but I just need a spoon delivered to." And the guy said, "Doesn't sound crazy at all." And then I realized where I was. But anyway, I was with a friend of mine named Jeff, and they brought up the spoon, and he said, I should probably go first because I had a much more vicious tolerance than this guy did. So I said, "Okay, go ahead." And then as soon as he fixed, he went, "Oh man, this is different." Well, to make a long story short, I did it like you've seen it done in movies. I was using a belt on my arm to get the vein to rise up enough to hit, and I did the shot. And when I woke up, it was about 4 hours later, and the belt was still on my arm, and I could not feel. I mean, I couldn't move it. I couldn't make anything happen, and I was in a dead panic. I thought, I'm going to lose my arm. I mean, I was freaking out. And we went downstairs and grabbed a taxi cab, and I got in the back of this cab and we started to drive toward an emergency room. And we're going through traffic, and I'm just in the back of the car whining like a child to my friend Jeff. "I can't believe I did this. I'm an idiot. I'm going to lose my arm." And it was my dominant arm, right? It was the hand that I write with. And about, I don't know, 10 minutes into a ride that I'm not sure how long it was. For all I know, they were driving in circles because they do that crap to you. But about 10 minutes into the ride, my finger started to move. And I was like, "Hey, turn this thing around, take us back to the hotel." But to me, Amsterdam is, the red light district is disturbing as hell. It's something that no person should ever see. But I liked the people. I thought the people were incredible. I like the way that they treat people on drugs. They have a real modern approach to drugs and people who abuse drugs. And I was really impressed with how they tried to help people with drug problems. That was really the thing that jumped off the paper most for me, was like the Rainbow Room and all of the things that they were doing to try to help heroin addicts. That just blew me away. I thought that was a culture that I was fairly impressed with. When you're lacking sleep, Feels like you are up Poop Creek. Lost your paddle in the deeps. Your insides feel all dirty. Creeps. Sleep like you are dead. Wake with a clear head. Go smell fresh bread. Scotch sonnet. Well done. Well done. The man really is a poet. I'm telling you. He's been called the bard of our generation. I know because I'm the one who called him it. Damn. I got another text message that wasn't them. And I'm dreaming at this point. They're not going to reach out to me. Sorry. Who lost use of his arm from passing out in an armchair. Therapist said it happened somewhat often. Blew my mind. Wow, that is crazy. That is absolutely terrifying. I've been really blessed because I have passed out in positions that I once passed out, and it was really kind of funny because a bunch of people saw it, but I passed out in this really ridiculous position, and my arm was sort of like behind my head. But the crazy thing was my hand was here, and I saw my hand. Like when I woke up, didn't realize it was my hand and screamed at the top of my lungs because I thought somebody was like reaching to grab me. And like 3 people happened to see it. One of them was that same Jeff I was talking about, but he looked at me and went, "Nice." All he said, "Nice." We laughed for about 2 years. That story got told again and again and again. You remember when your hairy arm scared the hell out of you? Yeah, that kind of a thing. I have not slept and almost chose sleep instead of the boat. Wow. You realize we would have come to your place and slapped the crap out of you, sliced the tires on your vehicle. You know what I mean? Abused any farm animals we saw. Can't have you doing that, photographer. Seriously. Not having it. I'll sick M. Hunt and Miss V on you. You'll be hating it. Text them. Let's see what you said here. Text them and tell them you're here for them and you will keep their confidence until they are ready. You know what? You're a wise man. I think that's almost word for word what I said right before I went live. I said, I'm going live on the lifeboat and I'm going to talk about you for an hour. I have no intention of telling your parents anything. You need to tell your parents something. You don't have to worry about, my confidence. That is pretty close to exactly what I said. And all I really said was, I would be more than happy to help you when the time comes that you're ready to tell them. Because if you don't tell them, it's one thing if you were to both go, but that isn't what will happen. One of you will be left with the knowledge that the other is gone and that you could have done something to stop it. And I'm not trying to do a scared straight thing or any of that crap. That really is what will happen. And that's the kind of devastating that can ruin an entire life. Like there's no, especially for a twin, I just don't think there's any bouncing back from that. And that was kind of the point that I tried to hammer home, and that you're going to be really surprised at how your family reacts. We build it up in our head that it's going to be, just the most awful thing, and that they're going to ground you. They're going to, take away any privilege you ever had. And they're going to hate you and treat you like crap. And parents just aren't built that way. Kids don't realize that every parent out there was a kid. Try not to feel so bad, Kat. You may not feel like you can talk to kids. Wow. Tommy Bird, I needed that. I mean that. Tommy, I needed that. Yeah, that made my day right there. Tommy, you're free to give them my email. I know how to talk to the hip kids. I'm the furthest thing from a rat or a snitch. I tried to point out to these kids that I just finished doing my second federal prison sentence. Like, you talk about a guy that you know, I wouldn't be here if I was a rat, because I would have just said, "Hey, that dude stabbed me," and I would have been out of solitary confinement with a needle in my arm by the end of the day. But the refusal to tell them what race stabbed me. I didn't even have to tell them who did it. I just had to say what race it was, and they wouldn't have had to put me on solitary. They could have put me somewhere where a white guy could have, lived with me, and we would have been on a regular range. But I was put on walk alone, right, so that nobody can get anywhere near you. But I may do that anyway, M. Hunt. I may shoot off your email anyway, because it just seems like I came up a little short. And I came up short at a time where that's not a good thing. Like, make no mistake, I have messed up massively on the lifeboat 50, maybe 60 times, maybe more than that, where I just said the wrong thing. And I knew as soon as I said it, I said the wrong thing or whatever. But not to people doing fentanyl. You know what I mean? I'm sure that I talk to people all the time that are doing fentanyl, but they never admit to it. These kids were just honest as hell. They're like, "I'm buying perk 30s." And I was like, "Oh man, I guarantee they're not perk 30s. And I got a duh. Like, duh. They were very aware of the fact that they weren't doing perk 30s. Which, I mean, I guess that's something. That should make me feel good that at least kids realize that they're not, that it scares me to think that they really think they're getting a Percocet. But if you've been smoking it for a year, you're probably a little more hip than the kids that are buying them at parties and swallowing them. One of the first things I said was, when they said I'm smoking them, I said, "So you don't swallow them?" And they were like, "No, it would kill you." That's so bizarre to me. I don't think at that age, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that. There wasn't much that was going to stop me at 18. Thank you, Hobotographer. Luke Skywalker, good to see you, man. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I know, V. You're right. And you're all right. It's just, it's probably just that, I'm heinously self-centered. And it's probably more about the amount of time that I spent. You know what I mean? Like, if they were just going to not listen and continue to do the stuff, 5 hours, 4.5 hours of time that I could have been sleeping probably could have been better spent. But you know what? There's no chance in hell they're not listening to this. So that was a text message. Let's see. People, I'm going to go. That is a productive email. And my friends have reached out to me. I don't know whether or not that means that we're going to be Virginia. I love you. I really do. All right, M. Hunt. All right, people, I'm going to be taking off a little early. It's about 9 minutes early because I just got an email from my friends, a text message from my friends, and we're going to see if maybe we can. They've obviously watched the entire Lifeboat. I'll bet you it was the Amsterdam story that got them. All right, peeps.
I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. You're on the lifeboat, and this one here in the garage, hunting rodents. Hey, I love all of you. I really do. Thanks for putting up with me this morning. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the lifeboat this evening. I am Captain Tommy Scoville. This has been the lifeboat. See you tonight. God bless.